Boom.
Hey guys, we are now live on air with Michael Goodchild, the vegan activist on YouTube. This guy is amazing. If you don't know him already, if you haven't checked out his YouTube videos, be sure to check him out. I swear I've been brought to tears nearly by a couple of them. They're just so good. They're all so share worthy, and they hit the heart, man. Like really impactful messages in his videos. And yeah, just really cool guy. I met Michael in the UK this summer. Really cool.
That was legendary.
That was so awesome, man. But yeah, man, I'm stoked to hear your talk today, and I might be here to ask you a few questions myself through the chat. But without further ado, man, take it away. Enjoy your hour here. I'll come back and see you in about an hour.
Okay then. Thanks, man. Yeah. So, hey guys. My name is Michael. For anyone who doesn't know me, my YouTube channel is The Vegan Activist. I started it about a year and a half ago. And the goal has always just been to give people, simple, clear information just to help them, go vegan, overcome the obstacles they're facing. I consider myself a filmmaker rather than just like a vlogger, like a lot of YouTubers. I like to really go at it with sort of more of an artistic sort of perspective. That's always really interested me. I've had sort of a background of music and stuff, so it's helped to have all the sort of different elements to build up like these sort of educational short films and resources, rather than just simple day-to-day vlogs. And I always enjoy the process of creating things like that. I mean, I'm a environmental animal rights activist. I've done plenty of hands-on street activism, like big protests and marches and chalking, big chalking events and things, street art. But I spend the majority of my time just creating these sort of short films and resources, and just like going back-to-back emails with people. I get a lot of sort of young teenagers and stuff, and I just want to try and help them overcome the obstacles, go vegan, and just live as comfortably and as happily as possible. So yeah, that's me. You can check me out. It's youtube.com/theveganactivist. And basically all my platforms, Instagram, Twitter and all that, it's just The Vegan Activist, or I think Twitter is Vegan Activist #1. But it's easy enough to find. So let's start with veganism. Well, I mean, the definition of veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. And by extension, it promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of humans, other animals, and the environment. In dietary terms, it denotes the practice of dispensing with all products derived wholly or partly from animals. So that's what Donald Watson coined many, many years ago. But we think the first step to going vegan, like going vegan overnight and everything, is just understanding the core principles of veganism. And veganism isn't about being perfect. It's not about being superior or more intelligent. It's just about looking beyond yourself, thinking about how our choices affect others, and then choosing to live as compassionately as we can. And it's about trying to do the right thing in a world where apathy and injustice is still the norm. And I believe that everyone has the capacity to do what's right. It's just within our nature. So for me, the first step to becoming vegan is educating yourself. There's a lot of information out there, but we live in the age of the internet where, pretty much, if you want to Google something and find out what's really going on, you can. And it is really that simple. So yeah, the first step is educating yourself, because when you have that core conviction, you have the reasons behind you, it's so easy to change your habits. And I think lack of research is the easiest way of falling into what I would call this transitioning trap. I was vegetarian for several years before I went vegan. And even when I started to hear little things about veganism, it took me a very, very long time to actually make a decision. Because like for me, I thought that dairy and eggs were an important part of a healthy diet. And I thought they came from happy, harmless industries, because that was what the adverts told me. That was what my parents told me. That was what all the industries told me, and that's what the doctors told me. And, you just don't know. But I mean, when I finally chose to look into it, I realized that, dairy and eggs, along with all animal products, are responsible for many of our leading killers. I realized that the #1 cause of environmental destruction, And like when you really break it down, I realized that in order for me to, drink milk and eat cheese, a baby calf had to be stolen away from its mother and killed at about 8 to 10 weeks old. And that's industry standard. I think what we need to realize as a species is that milk is baby calf growth formula designed to turn a tiny calf into like a giant 300 odd pound cow. And we're literally just stealing their food. And it's not natural at all. So, I realized that. And then I realized like in the egg industry, they grind up baby male chicks alive just because, it's the industry standard. They're not useful for the industry. They don't produce the eggs. And the way it really works, we just use these animals until we no longer have a use for them. We wear them out until, they become less profitable. They're over milked or, over produced eggs. And then by that point, we just dispose of them and they go. And it's horrible. But like most people don't realize, and we just need to get people to understand. So that's the first step, understanding that you've been lied to, and you need to take the steps towards not contributing to these products. So there's a lot of really, really good resources out there. There's a lot of that a lot of them that I'm a big fan of. Like if you really want to go into the hardcore information about the animal industries, there's the documentary Earthlings. There's also ones like Cowspiracy, which deals with the environmental impacts. There's good speeches on YouTube, things like there's one like lots from Dr. Michael Greger. There's one from Gary Rosky, Emily from Bite Size Vegan. Some of these YouTube channels, there's a lot of good talks. There's one called 101 Reasons to Go Vegan from a guy called James Waldman, and he just deals with it really, really well. And just YouTube and Google, using these platforms, you can really research and find out lots of really, really useful information. There's a lot of really good websites and things available now, like Bite Size Vegan's website or like Gary Rosky's website. It's adapt.org. Just scroll through these things. And, once you've got those, you can just like slowly chip away and just like figure out these things. And, there comes a time when like, once you've done enough research, you have to actually, take a bit of action. And you have to go at it with a really fearless attitude, because I think the biggest pitfall that people face is letting perfectionism discourage them, That's why so many people are scared of diving into being vegans, because, they get stuck in this transitioning trap where they're vegetarian or like pescatarian or like, mostly vegan. And it's just because people are scared of committing to things and then making mistakes. But like, as soon as you embrace the attitude that, I'm going to do my best, I'm not going to give up on this. And when I mess up, I'm just going to learn and move forward. That's when being vegan becomes easy. It's just when you accept that no one's perfect. We live our lives in constant fear. No one likes being judged and called out for, not being as perfect as they, expect of themselves and what other people expect of them. But no one's perfect. That's the thing. You have to just understand everyone makes mistakes. It's just part of being human. So you just have to embrace the challenges, embrace that it's going to happen. The first, few weeks, maybe even months of being vegan, it's going to seem overwhelming. You're going to have to be faced with all this new information and, new habits that you have to change. You're going to have to be like reading labels of things for the first few days and, realizing that like milk powder's in basically everything. And then you're like, no, I accidentally bought something that isn't vegan. And it's a massive habit change, just realizing these things. And then like inevitably you're going to accidentally buy something that isn't vegan. And then you're gonna be like, no, it's got like honey in it, or it's got like milk powder or something. And you're like, I could never be vegan. And it's so frustrating. And you're gonna be like tearing your hair out saying, this is too hard. But, it's okay. You just have to accept that, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's happened to, the majority of vegans, like making these mistakes, but you just have to accept, that's happened and move on. And the good news is that, after about a month or two, especially when you start connecting with people, getting on YouTube and stuff, learning about like all this information that's available, you just realize that, over time, you're going to figure out what is and isn't vegan. You're going to form new habits, and then you no longer will have to think about it. And, that's the thing, it's good to have a really positive mindset, you know, because like, I'm still learning and figuring things out. I've been doing this for like more than 3 years now. And it's just, it's a constant learning process. You know, you're always learning new things. It is just something that you need to see as an adventure, you know, as an opportunity to learn and grow. And, you know, just don't take it too seriously when you mess up. You know, just realize that, you know, it happens. We live in a world where animal products are everywhere and, you know, injustice is everywhere. People consider it normal. If you mess up, you're doing something that isn't necessarily perfect. You're doing better than most people. That's the thing. You know, you're trying your best. So, you know, that's the attitude that you need to really embrace. Another thing, you know, like the next step is pretty much figuring out you know, the fact that all the other products you know, that you're involved with, and then the food, and just sort of figuring out how you're going to like manage that in your day-to-day thing. So I like to just quickly touch on like the clothing and cosmetic side of things, because it's something that I think people worry about most. I think it's easy enough to be like, let's eat a plant-based diet, let's eat, you know, lots of fruits and vegetables and stuff. Like, it's fairly simple, but people are like, oh, well, I've got all these non-vegan things, like maybe non-vegan furniture or non-vegan like makeups and leather jackets and things like that. And like, you spend a lot of money on these things. They're things you use day to day. And, you know, it's one of those things. It's not possible or practicable. It's not financially doable to just like throw everything away overnight and then just buy loads and loads of new stuff. I mean, like some people can do that, but the majority of people, it's just not possible. And they need to realize that, you know, get your diet down first, make that sustainable, and then you can focus on the other products. You know, like look out for all these new, you know, non-animal tested, you know, vegan cosmetics, clothing, furniture, things like that you use, and, you know, like strive to replace them as soon as you can. But just realize that, you know, you don't have to be perfect, you know, the day you go vegan, because it's not about that. I think the biggest fear is like the social side of saying, you know, you're walking down the street and you've got shoes made out of cow skin because you bought it before and you wear it all the time and you're going to replace them eventually, but you haven't done that yet. And then you're trying to talk to someone and then the conversation goes towards veganism, you're educating them, but then they say, oh, well, you know, you've got leather shoes, so whatever you're saying doesn't hold any weight. And you feel bad because part of what they're saying, you know, you've got this dead animal skin on your feet and it's a bit disgusting. But you just have to explain to them, you know, like, I'm doing my best. You know, I'm going to replace them as soon as possible. And then you just have to steer the conversation onto something that's a lot more productive. So here's another going vegan overnight kind of tip. This is nutrition now. So like one of the biggest things is like, I can't really go vegan because I'm worried about like getting this nutrient or that nutrient, or, you know, am I going to have to be doing special nutrition planning with special doctors' advice and stuff? And some people have to get like blood tests and have all these things, and they really worry about nutrition. You know, like most people generally think that without meat, dairy, and eggs, we're going to be missing, you know, really important, you know, nutrients like protein, iron, calcium, things like that. And it's a genuine concern. I think it's quite sad because we've been taught by these adverts, you know, milk builds strong bones and meat is the best source of protein, to the point where most people's knowledge about nutrition just comes from the meat, dairy, and egg industries rather than the actual science or any kind of like valid information. So, you know, you just need to get over that. Like, people generally think that, you know, you stop eating animals and you're just going to die of a protein deficiency. But the questions we need to be asking ourselves, and the easiest way to break down, like, how do I get all the nutrients as a vegan and am I going to be protein deficient, is just to say, well, if you think animals are the only source of these nutrients, where are those animals? The majority of them are herbivorous. Where are they getting those in the first place? And the answer is they're getting it from the plants, you know, just like simple greens and things like that. So we can get those nutrients from the plants without having to kill an animal in the whole process. And it's simple. So the way I see it, just go directly to the plants and you're going to get enough calcium, you're going to get enough iron, you're going to get enough protein, and you don't need to obsess over it because it isn't that complicated. You know, like mountain gorillas, who are like big, hench, muscular animals, they go around, they're not worried about like, am I getting enough protein? They just eat loads and loads of leaves, and they eat all the fruits and stuff, or whatever they eat. I'm not an expert on what mountain gorillas eat, but they eat all the plants, and then they just go around and they do well. You know, they don't obsess over like, oh yeah, am I getting enough iron today? Because it doesn't need to be that complicated. So, you know, there's like lots of resources where you can figure out, you know, where the nutrients come from. On adapt.org, which is Gary Rofsky's website, there's a giant list where it's like every single nutrient, vitamin B, you know, blah, 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 vitamin C, vitamin A, all that. And it just lists all the foods there. So, and it all just comes down to, once you look on that, you can reassure yourself, you know, if I eat like a mango, I'm going to get loads of vitamin A, I'm going to get loads of vitamin C, da, 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 da. And then you're just like, ah. And another thing I say to people when you first go vegan, maybe get a Chronometer account and just like log your foods into there. And then basically log what you've got, and it'll probably say, I'm getting enough nutrients. And then you can print that out, show it to your friends, and it'll just be something that you just like, I've done that, I've looked, I know I'm okay. And then you'll be like done. Another obstacle with like going vegan like straight away is coping with the change of like food densities. You know, like the biggest issue isn't like not getting enough nutrients. Sometimes for new vegans, it's like just not getting enough food in, because, you know, you eat a cheeseburger from McDonald's, you've got like 5 bites and it's something like 800 calories. You know, you eat some like peaches or like a mango, you have like 5 bites and that's like 100 calories. So you have to kind of teach yourself to eat a little bit more until you're a little bit more full, so that you get enough energy for, you know, what you're trying to do, especially if you're an athlete or you're particularly active. You know, just focusing on making sure you eat plenty for what you're doing, and focus on more dense things. Like dates are really good ideas, like banana smoothies are just amazing, like first thing in the morning, stuff like that. Yeah, just sticking to that. And I think another obstacle that people face when they first initially go vegan is treating veganism too much as just another diet. So like, I think veganism is an amazing tool for being like the thriving, you know, in terms of health. But when you first go vegan, like putting unnecessary restrictions on yourself will probably just slow you down, because you'll just be like overwhelmed thinking, oh, what can I eat? I think the best way is to slowly transition, just be like, you know, let's just go make sure it's vegan. And then once you've got make sure it's vegan, then you can focus on your health goals and do that as like a slower process. And I'm not really the biggest expert in like, you know, what's the best, healthiest, da, 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 da. You know, like you figure that out down the line. I think, you know, figure out what's vegan, treat it as a philosophy, a way of living, something you're doing, you know, for compassion. And then the health will come, you know, like very quickly, and you'll realize that, you know, you can focus on that. So in terms of like grocery guides and things, the easiest way to figure out what you want to eat is just to go on YouTube channels. There are obviously loads like really great ones for the Vegan World Summit. Like this, all these YouTubers now, they're just saying like, here's what I eat in a day, stuff like that. Watch all these videos, the what I eat in a day videos, the, you know, like recipe videos, all these sort of things. Watch those, figure it out, you know, like get these ebooks and things. And then you're just going to have a really clear plan of like, here's what I can go out and eat, take it to like grocery shops. And then you've got that, and you can just build from there, figure out what you like, experiment, and you'll sort it out. So the food thing is really easy. I think like people worry about like, oh, you know, veganism is going to be hard, I'm not going to eat anything. But like the food side is easy. I think the most difficult thing about being vegan is the social side, because pretty much, you know, straight away after you go vegan, you're faced with like complete apathy, and it's just scary, because like you find out this amazing truth and you want to share it with the world, and you want people to understand. And when you think that, you know, like you think that all your friends and family are going to understand and want to change just like you did, you know, you think that, but then what you get, you know, in response is, oh, you're being weird, and like they give you these excuses that just don't make any sense, you know, like, oh yeah, but canines and desert islands and plants have feelings, and you know that they know that it doesn't make any sense, but at the same time they believe that, and it's just heartbreaking. So you just need to get to that point where you find a peaceful way of saying to people, you know, this is something that I'm really passionate about. I really want to do this. There's lots of information about it available. You can learn about it too, but, you know, I don't want this to become an argument. You know, I think we should just treat this as something that, you know, you should be interested in. And, you know, resistance isn't going to help. I think you just need to explain to your family members that this is really important and you want them to get on board. But at the same time, you know, when they're ready, because it takes some people, especially the older sort of generation, a long time to change habits and accept new information. So you just have to be patient and persistent. And, you know, like if your family aren't ready to be vegan, it's going to be hard, but just like keep focusing on trying to share videos with them occasionally, you know, make the meals, and, you know, eventually it'll get easier. So once you've like figured out a really nice way of just being at peace with yourself and being at peace at, you know, with explaining it to others, then you can start to like focus on activism. Because once you've like figured it all out, you know, you've got your diet down, you're starting to learn all this new information, then it's time to share that information with the world. And that's where like activism comes in. And I think that's an important part of being vegan, because like veganism in itself is amazing. You know, like you're going to be healthy, you're saving the environment, but it doesn't just stop there. You know, when you see injustice and you know that there's horrible things going on right now, you have a responsibility to share that with the world and tell the world to stop contributing to it. So, you know, get on YouTube and just find people that, you know, are so passionate and that will inspire you to just keep going, speak up about it, you know, get involved in street protests, things like that. Just go to meetups and find new people, and you're just going to learn to love life and fall in love with humanity again. Because, you know, like through the process of like, oh, no one wants to listen to any of this, when you find other vegans and you find people who are open-minded to listen, that will just like make you so happy and just bring you so much happiness in life. And I just think, you know, once you get that, you're just going to flourish as an activist. You know, you go out there, create YouTube videos, do all these things, and you'll feel like a real sense of purpose. So I think that's pretty much the steps to going vegan, just like figuring it all out, and then just like using what you've learned and the skills and the experiences you've had, and all those times when you've made mistakes, you can use those to teach other people not to make those mistakes. Because I think I'm really good at like telling people like, don't mess up in this area, because I've made all these mistakes. You know, I've done all these things, I've been doing it for a long time, and that's, you know, that's okay, because it's just taught me to be a better educator, a better activist. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think we're just going to open up to the Q&A now. How do we do this? There's I believe it's to the side. Here we go. Yeah. Oh, we got questions. Oh damn it, we got Ted Card getting stuck in. Let's go for it. So we've got okay, here we go. What's the biggest mistakes people make when trying to convince others to be vegan? Okay, this is a good question. So, biggest mistake people make when they're trying to convince others. I think it's assuming that they know everything that you know. So I think I've made this mistake a lot. It's just like, because it seems so simple to you because you understand it, you know, you realize that it makes sense. You know, you just you assume that like just explaining it to them, like how you would want it to be explained to yourself, that they'll get it. But sometimes you need to break it down and find ways that will help them understand in their own way, because we all like respond to different things and understand different things. So pretty much I'd say just like understand that you need to, you know, like break it down to their level, find out what their kind of like small world problems are. You know, like whether or not they're like struggling health wise, or, you know, like some people really hate bullies, like just explaining to them that like veganism is stepping away from this idea of oppression and bullying and things like that. Or what other types of people are there? Or if it's just like someone that really loves animals, just explaining to them like, you know, could you kill that animal yourself? Like what if it was a dog, you know, that was queuing up to be killed? And yeah, that's good. So yeah, just that's probably the biggest mistake, really. And also just getting too angry about it and just getting too frustrated. Keep calm. You have to always keep calm, because if you go all crazy on them, they're just gonna be like, ah, it's a crazy vegan. Wait, there's other questions. What was your YouTube channel called? Hang on. There's other questions. I should read through this. Boom. Yeah. Okay, so what was your channel? Oh yeah, it's The Vegan Activist. It's just youtube.com/The Vegan Activist. Here we go. What are some videos you want to make in the future? So videos I want to do, I mean, there's a lot that I really want to work on, but I think there's a case that, you know, that there's so many to do, and I just want to do each of them right. One of them I've thought about doing, I've even started, like, I created a script for it and then started editing it, is like a kind of a mini film that kind of encompasses the, like, kind of Earthlings along with Cowspiracy and sort of like Forks Over Knives sort of videos, encompassing all those three into some kind of like sort of 20-minute film that just explains it, where it all links together and builds up into just like this, like, there's no option not to do this. I think that's going to be a video that's going to come soon, but it's just a case of framing that together. I wanted to do a how to get every single nutrient as a vegan sort of video, where I just go through every single nutrient and just be like, and these are all the foods that contain that nutrient. Because I think that's going to be like important just for like children to show their parents, being like, look, mom, if I eat bananas, I'll get protein and stuff like that, because that's important. I'm trying to think of creative videos. I want to make guides to like individual things. Like I've done the script for like how to go dairy free. So just like a guide on, like, you know, why dairy is unhealthy, why it's unethical, and then just like how to get over the social side of being dairy free. You know, like just things like, oh yeah, I'm going along and I'm having coffee. How do I like ask for it without milk? And it's like, it's just as simple as like, hey, can I get it with soy milk or something like that? Just little simple things like that. And then just like dairy alternatives and all that sort of stuff. And just explaining, like, you know, how you can get the nutrients that people think are in dairy. I want to do that with like with eggs and possibly in fish. I've done a fish video, but I want to go a bit further with that, with sort of the oceans and everything. Here's another question. How to tell people you're a vegan in a non-aggressive way, so they will think about their actions and understand you. In a non-aggressive way, well, the way I like to explain it, which has pretty much been like borrowed from all the other people that have tried to explain it in that kind of way, is just like, you just explain to them, you know, like we all say that we're animal lovers, we all say that we care about justice and, like, you know, we have respect for life, but then our actions don't align with our beliefs. You know, we pay people to mutilate, torture, and slaughter animals who don't want to die. And like, whether or not you are aware of the process and how it goes on, it's still happening. And if you're paying for animal products, you know, you're a part of that. And, you know, like, it's nice to just tell stories. I think the best, like, non-aggressive way is to say, well, you know, I thought like that too. I'm not judging you. I'm not hating you. I don't think that you're a bad person, because I thought like that too. But, you know, there does come a time when you know, you need to sort of take responsibility for your actions and, you know, stand up for what, you know, what is right. So the best way is to say, well, you know, I felt like that too. And then, you know, I watched some documentaries, I watched some speeches, and they really opened my mind. You know, tell them how something's opened your mind and say, you know, it really made me think about this. And then you can share them some information. You can say, you know, I realized that, you know, milk was really unhealthy, or that like eating more fruits is much more healthy. Or, you know, I realized that, you know, the dairy industry is cruel, and this goes on. And you just like subtly bring it in and form it into a story, because people love stories. They love hearing about your journeys and just like things you learn along the way. And if you can make it entertaining for them, it no longer becomes an argument. It's just them hearing like your perspective, and you can share the information and help them just understand. So yeah, that's the best way. And here's a really good question. Do you think protests are effective? If so, do you think there's a certain kind of protest that works? You see, there's a lot of different types of protests. Initially, so I'll tell some stories. I went to some protests, like the first protest I went to. I thought, like, to be honest, this was before I really realized that YouTube was, you know, this amazing platform that could change the world. I just thought YouTube was where like everyone had like cat videos, and it was like, oh yeah, YouTube, and it's like some like vloggers going around being like, hey, you know, here's me going to a party. And I just thought that was what YouTube was. So I was like, how do I make a difference? So I went on like Facebook and I found some random vegans, and they were like, oh, we're going to this march and it's going to be like this big protest, and you know, we're doing all these things. And then I realized that, like, I went there and I was like getting stuck in trying to be passionate, but it was just a lot of angry people venting frustration rather than actually trying to make a difference and trying to help people. It was just, it's people that were like frustrated with the people around them, you know, like their family members or something, and they just wanted somewhere to let it out, and they were just doing that, and it just kind of made vegans look a little bit crazy. I think it's definitely got its place because, you know, it brings people into it, and we still live like in a world where a lot of people don't even know what the word veganism is. So, you know, we do, there is like a sense of like, you know, the more that hear the word vegan, the better. But I think that's not necessarily the best way. But some protests can be really effective. You see, if you go to like any kind of protest, you know, whether it's like, you know, a big angry one or if it's just like a more of a simple peaceful one, and I'll talk about that in a second. But like just going to some protests and just being the rational, level-headed person that just like, you know, says, well, you know, I know these people are being a bit crazy, but like, really, if have you thought about it? Like, do you love animals? And just ask them some questions and be polite and kind about it, and just, you know, give them a bit of information, you know, share some resources, and just break it down. You know, just be friendly, compassionate, and understanding. And then once you can, like, you know, have that kind of conversation with people, you can like repeat that, and then these protests just become another chance to speak with more people and, you know, share stories and help them understand. And I've been to a lot of like protests recently, which has changed a lot because I've been to some other protests and marches and things like that where I got caught up in the whole getting angry and just being a crazy extremist such thing that's like not really helping anyone. And it's more for me than for actually, you know, trying to make a difference. So if you can be the rational person that explains it to people, that helps. But some of the protests that like I went to this protest recently in it's in Norwich in the UK, and someone threw water on one of my friends for just doing a little bit of chalk outside McDonald's, and they threw water over him, and he was like, "Oh, this isn't right. Like, you know, it's a public space. We, like, the police came and they said, yeah, you're right to do this. It's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like a public space." So the next day we came back in proper peaceful protest style with like 20 of us, and we all just came with chalk and we just wrote peaceful messages, and we just stood on the street. Like, some people had little like signs that just said simple things, and people were just going around like making videos, handing out leaflets, and, you know, there was a few people just like talking to, you know, like almost like mini speeches going on where people were kind of drawing a crowd, and it just became this exciting thing that people wanted to get involved with. This was the kind of protest where random people passing by wanted to get involved, even though they didn't even know what veganism was. They were like, "Oh, this looks like so much fun. Like, what's going on here? It's so much fun." And it's like, "Oh yeah." And there was like, "Oh, just hand him some chalk." And he's like, "Oh, okay, write something like cool." And they looked at what was going on, and there was like, "Oh yeah, like have a happy meal, be vegan. That makes a lot of sense." And then they start like chalking away, and they're getting stuck in, and they're drawing like little cute animals and stuff. There was like children getting involved who like probably weren't vegan, and they were just getting involved. And that protest, which was a protest against, you know, like McDonald's and stuff, just became like this amazing event that everyone wanted to get involved with, that, you know, inspired the public. So I think like anything that allows you to educate just people on the streets who, you know, need to hear about veganism, I think that's fine. If you're good at doing that sort of thing, definitely. Although I do think that stuff like YouTube is more attainable for most people, and it's probably more effective if you do it right. But protests have their place. especially if you film them and make a video about it that's going to like inspire people, to get stuck in their own way and be fearless about it. I think being fearless in a protest, in a productive way that helps people, and gets people thinking, that's definitely worth doing. Yeah, it does. It is effective. Like I've had so many inspiring moments of just like, someone's walking by and they're like, "Oh, what's this veganism thing?" And you start chatting about it, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, but I'm worried about this." And then you're like, "Ah, no, it's okay." Like then you explain it to them, and then they're like, "Oh, well, am I going to get enough protein?" And you're like, "Oh, my mate over there, he's a bodybuilder. He knows about protein and bodybuilding and all that." And then that guy comes over and he just explains it to them, and he just breaks it down. And they're like, "Wow, I'm so inspired from this experience that I could be vegan too." And then you're like, "Yeah, go for it, mate." And then, I mean, you never really know what happens, but a lot of people I think you've at least planted a seed, and that's worth it. Here's a good question. Do you think to be angry sometimes helps you personally to deal with all the things we know? Yeah, there's definitely a place for getting angry. I've had, I went to a slaughterhouse vigil where we went outside. I've been to a couple recently, but we went there to see the animals before they were about to be killed. Just sort of bear witness, give them some water, give them a bit of comfort, and then take some footage and photography and stuff, so that we can share that with the world and help people understand. And those are really heartbreaking things to go to, because you really can connect with the animals and you see that they're terrified. And, as the trucks are driving away and it's hopeless, sometimes it is good just to get a little bit angry. And it's nice to get angry in a productive way. Get angry maybe to a camera as a rant video, just explaining to people, I'm so angry and frustrated by this. And people listen if you do it in a productive way. But I think, for getting angry and overly emotional and upset, it helps you cope because that all this is going on, and it helps you just vent all this frustration. But the animals don't really have time for us to get upset, overly emotional, angry, and all these sort of things that just make you seem crazy, especially if you're doing it publicly. They just need us to get focused, organized, and do something about it. But there is a time, there's definitely there's a place for venting your frustration and anger in a way that helps others understand. So that's why I'd say focus your anger on creating positive change, and then it can be really important to your activism. Okay. How do you tolerate being at those events where people eat animal products in front of your face? So yeah, say when I went to the McDonald's thing, there were those people just eating, dead cow sandwiches where they're just oh yeah, bacon though and all that stuff. How do you tolerate it? Well, I think it's just one of those things where you have to just accept that they're not there yet. And as much as you just want to punch them or something, that's not really going to help anyone. It's not going to help the animals. And maybe you can just say to them, well, you're enjoying that, but did you realize an animal had to die for that? And then you can tell them stories and say this is the thing. And if they're not willing to listen, they just want to do something, I say hit them so hard with the truth that they'll either run away or have to confront reality. But I think these sort of events where there's a real sense of people just doing evil things. People say, oh, it's just extreme to say evil, but consuming animals, who don't want to die, especially when it's wrong, that it's not necessary, it's not needed to be healthy. It doesn't get much more evil than that. There's some dark magic going on right now in this whole the world. But I think having a good if you go into these events, go there with friends so that when you get annoyed, you can all just sort of share the frustration together comfort each other, and then just like inspire each other just to be more passionate and be more uncompromising and just fearless about it all. Yeah. I don't do well multitasking. Okay, I don't do well. Here's another question from Rose. I don't do well multitasking and focusing on many things at once. Do you think it's better to focus on activism and YouTube, etc., or follow my dream of singing, which I absolutely love and feel I'm meant to do, and be the example? I just feel so passionate and angry, so I feel drawn to activism. But when I do activism, I kind of feel exhausted after, whereas when I'm singing, I feel so uplifted and happy. So what do you think is the best way I could help the world? That's a really, really good question. Keeping hydrated. Yeah, let's just break this down. So yeah, multitasking. I mean, I understand that's really like, I struggle with that as well. I'm the sort of person where I like to just have one simple focus. I can focus on it and I can just do it to the best of my abilities. I'll enjoy it. I'll obsess over it. I'll like wake up in the morning. It'll be something I just want to do. And that's pretty much how you're explaining like how you see singing. And the thing is with activism, I think people think that activism needs to be this complicated, like going to protests and marches and making videos and things like that. But I think the most revolutionary, amazing way of doing activism is just talking to people, just being an example, and using every opportunity, as a chance to, inspire people to just change their habits, make a difference and just think about things. So I think sometimes being just a passionate, happy person is the best way of making a proper difference, because I think, if you can balance doing a bit of like YouTube videos on the side and just little simple things where occasionally here and there you go to an event and it's like maybe chalking somewhere and you can speak to people, but all these events like activism and things, it's all just an opportunity to plant seeds and speak to people. You can speak to people, if you have like a sort of general social life where you interact with people, or even when you're just going out, wear a vegan t-shirt or something that just like explains that, I don't stand for injustice. Have something like that just like, point it out to people so that you can start the conversations, like never shy away from those conversations. But you don't need to like really commit to like, yeah, I'm doing loads and loads of activism. I feel so passionate and angry about it. Yeah. But yeah, I think you should just like focus on being happy, and then you'll shine so brightly that the people around you will want to change and they'll want to ask you questions. But then at the same time, you can poke them a few times and just get them involved. So that's what I'd recommend. This is so true. I found myself yelling and flicking off trucks full of pigs going down the highways. Yeah, when I'm alone in the car. It's true. Here we go. We've got some questions. Oh, we've got some really good ones from Ted. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Are you up to... This is a challenging question. Are you optimistic that the majority of the population will go vegan by 2050? Well, it depends what day you ask me, really. It's one of those things where, like, some days I'm like, like the days when you really get through to people and you help people, those days you're like, we can really change the world. Like, you help like 10 people in one day and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go vegan. And, you feel so inspired. And like, even when you go to like protests and events or like just vegan meetups and you meet all these people who are so passionate and they like just inspire you to just be a, better person, just like day to day. And you think, yeah, we're actually creating change. Or you see some things where it's like, slaughterhouse in Ohio shut down because of the decline in dairy consumption or something. And it's like, yes, we're making a difference. Like all these little things are adding up. But then at the same time, you have to realize that like 97% or whatever of the population still eat animals, and like a very large majority of them don't even realize that it's wrong. They don't even know what veganism is. And I think there's definitely a danger in us being like, yeah, we can change the world. There's so much change. And focusing on all these small victories and bigging them up to be bigger than they actually are. There's still a lot of work to be done, but at the same time, there is like with advances in technology, they're like with Impossible Foods, they want to create like vegan meats and burgers and things that will be so realistic that McDonald's will want to use them just because it's more sustainable. So they're gonna, I think, like give it like 10 years, McDonald's will be vegan. It won't be healthy, this is the junk foody thing will definitely take over, but yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely going to be a future. So 2050, I think we'll definitely have created a massive difference, and then it'll just be constant spiraling going up. I think the majority of the population probably will be forced to go vegan by that time. Not so much out of compassion and love, and like empathy. It will more just be out of necessity, because it'll get to that point from an environmental like point of view where just we won't be able to, like, these industries will be forced to collapse because it's just not sustainable, and otherwise the world won't be inhabitable. And I think it's kind of sad, but it will probably happen. Anyway, there's a what do you think about super meat? Okay, super meat. I think well, I wouldn't personally want to get involved in super meat myself. Like, I'm not going to eat any of that because it's not going to be healthy. And there's already like Impossible Food to have a thing that's more advanced, like it's more down the line in terms of like the production stuff than super meat. But at the same time, if you care about animals and you really think about it from the animals' point of view, let's like really think about it, they're going to be like, finally, something that will make them like, like the animals don't care if you're healthy or not. They don't care, like what you're eating as long as it's not them. So I think the animals would want us to embrace this idea of like super meat, where it's going to be a more sustainable option that doesn't kill animals. And the majority of people are too selfish to give up eating meat. So if there's a vegan alternative, or like so-called vegan, if there's an alternative that doesn't kill animals and we can use that, I think that's going to make a positive difference. And then maybe slowly from then we can get I've connected with the animals that are going to be killed, and like I know that they'd want us to support super meat, and that's just like that's what I'd see it as. The same thing, I don't think it's the solution. I think solve some problems but create more problems. It's got its complications. Here's a good question. I've shown my brother Earthlings and talked to him for hours and hours. We fought and I've cried, so I realize I can't change him. But any ideas how we can inspire our friends and family? Our friends and family, who I know are the hardest to convince. You see, friends and family are the toughest, because like it's easy. I can just like go on YouTube and help people that are like living the other end of the world, and like I can just, I get all these emails and things from people like, "Oh, you changed my life. It's easy." But then people that like are in your closest circles, there's some kind of block and the barrier between them listening to what you're saying. So how can we inspire them? I mean, like, a lot of my family are vegan now. That's like a thing that's like happened over the last kind of year and a half, just because of me constantly, patiently, persistently educating, and just just being like a shining positive example. Also just because I don't shut up about it. but I mean, I've figured out like what is the most effective thing. And yeah, so how do you get them to listen? Well, what I would do is definitely make them food. Make them loads of food, take them out for food, just give them lots of food, so they're going to be like, oh yeah, vegan is good. Just like make them some really, 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 really good food. That's an important thing. And at the same time, just really gently explain it to them, but without getting too angry about it and making them defensive, because as soon as they get defensive, you're gonna like lose the battle, and then they're gonna shut off. So make it like open-minded, make it fun. Maybe like just don't worry about, have some jokes, like make it funny. If you want to, like, I know it's frustrating, but if you make it, something that, like, tell them stories and they can actually listen to, start that dialogue, have the open dialogue. And if you have the open-minded dialogue, they're more likely to, like, for it to actually sink in. But you just have to be patient. Really on the recipes, yeah. I think, like, you're not always the best person to turn your family and friends vegan, but that doesn't mean you can't share them. Share with them, like, resources from other sources. I think, like, one of my friends who had been trying to, like, turn I think it was parents vegan for ages, they really couldn't get through to them. And then they had one of their friends round who was vegan. And the friend, like, I can't remember what happened, but the friend came round and they chatted with the parents. And straight after the friend went back home, the parents were like, we chatted with your friend, and, like, the way they explained it to us, like, we really just, like, we got it, like, we understood. And, like, I think we want to get on board with this, like, as quickly as possible. So I think it's just like someone else, like, their own perspective just makes them realize, this is a thing that they should take seriously. Also, just sharing speeches and stuff and YouTube channels from other people. Find something that they're interested in. So, say if they're interested in, like, if you see that they're animal lovers, take them to an animal sanctuary. Show them the animals that were saved from the industries that wanted to kill them just because they want to eat animals. Taking to animal sanctuaries is an amazing thing. I can't recommend that enough. Go to, like, as many, just, like, help them out, like, go there and volunteer. And, like, I think you show that to one of your friends, just like a day out with your friends, go to the animal sanctuary and volunteer. Most friends won't say no to that because it's just a nice day out, with the animals. Doing little things like that is just, like, a really nice way of spending time with each other, and at the same time, you can be planting a lot more seeds. Taking them to, like, events, like all these kind of veg fests and fruit fests, UK Fruit Fest. I love that. It's a super good event. So get them to something like that, and then once you've, like, brought them into that, they're going to be, like, meeting all these new people and just embracing these new sort of, like, ideas and, like, hearing people, and that's a good idea. Here we go. How do you wake up compassion and conscience in people? How do you wake up compassion and conscience? How do you get people to like open that? The thing is, I'm like, I always used to believe that, like, everyone was a good person, everyone cares, but I think a lot of people, they've been basically brainwashed from birth to be indifferent, and not just indifferent to, like, evil things, but just indifferent to everything. We live in this world where, there's constant distractions from just, like, all this social media and just all these, like, overstimulation. All this stuff's going on to the point where everyone's just numb. They're just numb to all the things that's going on around them. And that's true, just for the, like, simple things in life. It's true as, like, to that as much as it is to the really horrible things that, like, they need to be aware of. So definitely, like, try and get them off social media, but, like, that's not necessarily a solution. That's just me being funny. But yeah, I think show people some, like, so I think some of the, like, the quickest way to make someone, like, really have compassion and just, like, wake them up is the kind of shock value, like graphic footage and stuff like that. As much as I don't put graphic footage in really any of my videos anymore, just occasionally. But for me, like, you see the graphic footage, it's like, whoa, like, that's intense. That's something that I need to be like, I need to think about this, and I need to like, really reevaluate how my choices affect others and what I'm doing day to day. So yeah, graphic footage, and just just, like, breaking it down and, like, forcing them to, like, have this kind of empathy, where it's like, put it in there, like, put them in the shoes of, let's say, like, the animals, and, like, make them realize that their choices affect others. You pull them along and, like, you tell them the story of, like, what if that was your child that was being ripped away from its mother and killed, like, say, like, in the dairy industry. Just help them understand that, this is something that, if you were in their, like, position, it would be the end of your world, and you would be so, like, angry and upset and frustrated. So Like, you don't even need to understand. All you really just need to know is that, like, you know, this isn't right, and you know, you need to really think. I think that's what I'd say. Why don't you use much graphic footage anymore? Good question. You see, I spoke quite a lot about this with Emily from. Oh, this is a good video. Good question. But the graphic footage is. I spoke about this with Emily from Bright Sides Vegan because she doesn't do much graphic footage anymore, but at the same time, she knows she could, and she does when it's appropriate. But I mean, I try to make my videos as shareable as possible. I want to make videos that, you know, like they're going to get as many hits as possible. Not from a like, oh yeah, because I'm going to get more views, but just because the more people that are exposed to that, you know, the more people are going to be like, the more non-vegans are going to be watching it, because the majority of non-vegans don't want to see this graphic, like how their food's made. They need to see it, but I think like the way I go at it, like some people are really good with the kind of graphic footage, and it's definitely got this place like PETA and some of these like animal charities have these big exposés that like they get a lot of views and they're like showing people. So like I think my videos are more kind of gateway videos where it's like I'm explaining this to you in a simple way. You know, I want to get lots of people to just like listen and realize that this is easy to do. The real hardcore why we should do it, like, you know, if you need to hear it or if you need to see it, the graphic footage will like pop into your view, like vision, like sooner or later, and you'll have to like confront it because it's just always out there. But I don't think I should be adding to that. I think because it just puts a lot of people off. Just some people are really sensitive, and that's understandable. Like I've been really numb to all this, like, you know, graphic footage and animal stuff. But then when I went to like a slaughterhouse vigil and I saw the animals, all it was just as simple as just like staring into the eyes of pig, and I staring into the eyes of the pigs, and it just broke me down. I just had a complete breakdown for the rest of the day, and it just made me understand that, like, you know, this is hard to deal with, because if you was in their position, you'd be terrified. And it's just like the worst kind of horror film ever. And the thing that makes it horrible is the fact that it's real and it's happening like every second of every day, and it's going to continue unless people change. So yeah, that's why I don't really recommend people overdo it, because it's just like, you know, you're going to alienate your audience. Don't alienate your audience. I like to try and keep, like, a lot of vegans don't want to see it because they're like, I'm already vegan, so I don't want to have to deal with this. So I want to keep my vegans like happy, so that my vegans will share the videos with the non-vegan friends, and you know, it will kind of go around more. I just think it's just more productive in general. And Emily from Bright Sides Vegan has a similar sort of attitude. Hey, how do you deal with accepting that people close to you don't want to go vegan? I cook almost every night for them and try to educate them whenever I can, but I feel like I'm wasting time caring so much, so it's hard to find a balance. Where do you draw a line between doing everything you can to knowing when you've done everything you can? Yeah, this is a really good question. Both my parents have an autoimmune disease, which makes it harder. Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be a question. So I would say, like, I think in terms of how like the activism with people works, you should never make it your burden to turn them vegan. Like, you know, like like if they're not willing to listen, they're not willing to change. You do your very best. You know you've done your very best. You can't just like assume that they'll, like, let's imagine we've got a thing here. There's like here in the middle. Like you go to your like to the very half. You know, you're doing your very best. You can maybe push it a little bit further, but if they're not willing to go at all, it can't be your burden to push it right down over to their level, because that's too much. It'll just like break you down. So yeah, that's difficult. So I think like there are so many people who are like open-minded and willing to listen. You know, so many people who are out there that you can help. Don't burn yourself out trying to just help those individuals, because you know they're just like a few individuals, and there's so many more people who, you know, do want to hear this, like hear the message. So I would just say, like, you know, I try everything. I share the videos, I give them information, and then I just give them a bit of space and just say, well, I'm always here if you want to talk about it, but you're not ready yet, and you know, I'm just going to leave you to it. And that's just, you know, you can only do your best. and when they're ready, they'll change. So don't make it your burden. How to explain to people that animals' lives count to not only humans. Many people say that I say that humans are more important than animals in the way that they are more spiritually, mentally conscious. How to explain that that's not always the case. How do you explain to people that animals' lives count too? Well, here's the thing though. Like, this is like an important last question. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this one will be the last one, but I can explain it. This is so yeah. The way I like to explain it is like, imagine it was humans. Like, humans are of, varying intelligence, varying spiritual journeys and things like that. Like, we're all very different, and some people have like mental disabilities, physical disabilities. We're all different. We've all got different like skills, and some of us are less capable than others, but that doesn't make us any like less morally valuable. And the same with animals. Like, just the animals can't like build computers doesn't make them less valuable than us, because the animals can do amazing things in their own world and in their own light. They can do these, like, if you look at some of the beautiful things, like spiders spinning webs, it's like amazingly beautiful. And I love to just like show examples of things that animals can do that's just beautifully unique, because we can't mimic that. Like, we can try our best, but like there's a certain art to the way they just like approach life in the world. They have this beautiful simplicity that you just, like, humans, we're too advanced in our own like way to be able to appreciate like the beauty of simplicity and like just like the mundane. So I just think like all you have to do is spend time with animals. Like goats, I love goats, and I'm going to end in a second. Goats have amazing personalities. You spend the time with a stubborn goat and it will just make you realize how amazing animals are. And I mean, humans are animals, like we're all animals, but like other animals, they've just got their own world of funny things. And like, you spend some time with some goats and you'll just be like, well, this is this is the world. But anyway, I'm rounding this up now. Hey, it's Ted's here.
Dude, good job, man. That was amazing.
Thanks, man.
So enjoyable, man. You have like the voice for veganism, bro. For real. It's just like, it's soothing listening to you. It's like therapy, bro. I love it. It's really amazing. It's like compassionate therapy, for real.
Yeah, it's good fun.
I appreciate
that. I really enjoyed these questions. It's been really nice.
Yeah, they're beautiful questions, man. I love the people here at the summit. It's fantastic. Yeah. I'm stoked for next week too, man. Another full hour with you, right?
Yeah.
Another full hour with you next week, another full hour the next week, another full hour the next week.
It's amazing.
Super pumped, bro. Well, thanks so much, bro. And like I said, see you again next week. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. Do I just press this close video?
I will close you off, bro. No problem.
Okay, sweet.
Cheers, mate.